We've got 2 minutes. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for coming on, and just excited to see all the interaction we've had on this. We'll share a little bit about it as we get to we are in the 59th minute. So in another 15 or 20 seconds, I'll share where this germ of an idea came up, and pretty exciting.
Chuck, I just wanted to make sure you got introduced to Hans. He shows up as Big Fat's iPad on there.
He shows up as what?
He's sitting in his distillery.
I'm sorry, what's he show up as?
Big Fat's iPad. Wave at him again, Hans, would you?
Okay, you might have to do your gallery view.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
I locked you in. All right, gotcha.
And we're going to highlight Hans' story this morning.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it'd be appropriate.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right, well, very quickly, before we get to the 9th minute, we started this, we thought this up Thursday. We were asking, how can we serve small business owners around the world? And Friday morning, we got involved in developing a website, and the last 3 days have been a marathon, going to bed at midnight, getting up at 4:30, and just this flat out marathon. And we have a great website, a great content, a great opportunity to build something that we think is going to be of tremendous value for people every Monday morning. So Sandy, it's 9 o'clock. Take it away, my friend.
Well, I'm really excited. Welcome to the premiere of the Rising Phoenix Business Community. And we are really glad that you're here. It was kind of interesting as we were blasting this out on Facebook and doing our own lives and stuff. We're like, well, it could just be the three of us. You know, you never know. Because as we like to say at Crankset 5 Club, all implementing a bad plan straight out violently. So I want to introduce you to Chuck Blakeman. Chuck?
Hi, how are you doing? This is Chuck. I'm over here in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. We've got people drilling outside. It's all good.
And Chuck is our founder and author of several books and instigator of helping small business owners. We've been involved for about 10 years with Chuck, and so it's very exciting to have you. And I want to introduce you to my other co-host, Tom Corrigan.
Glad to be here this morning. Glad to see all your faces. Well, most of your faces. Some of you aren't. John, just a note, if you would mute your microphone, you can do that more than likely in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. There's a mute button down there. I believe you can also just do it by touching your space bar. That way we'll just be able to hear the person speaking at that time.
Great.
So Chuck mentioned that, you know, we had this crazy idea Thursday night, wasn't it? Like Thursday night, Chuck, and then Friday you got working on this. And so we want to show you, I'm going to pull up on the screen the new website that we created, the Rising Phoenix Business Community website, and tell you a little bit about the format of the show. The other thing is, you know, just what is a Rising Phoenix? Probably most of you know the story that it's a mythical bird that lives till about 100 years, and then around that mark, that change mark, that bird nestles into its nest and goes up in flames, and out of the flame of adversity, you know, rises a brand new thing. And so the Phoenix bird gains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessor. The Rising Phoenix business is born from the ashes of what came and emerges even stronger. So we are looking at this crazy time as a time where we're going to learn more, be more, learn to be more abundant, create more community, connect more. So we're super excited about having you guys be part of that. And we're going to hear amazing and very applicable and inspiring stories on this from business owners on every show. So we want you to put in the chat box if you've got a story. We want to know if you've got a bottleneck. We'll talk a little bit about that, because we want to help you find ways to not just survive in our present circumstances. We want to thrive. So we want to talk a little bit about the segments as we look at the website.
By the way, you know, as you know, probably noticed on the screen, Chuck is helping us kind of navigate through the new website. This is a work in progress. There are a couple of things we know are not correct yet, but most everything works. I mean, it's pretty amazing that we were able to get this up and running. Well done, team.
Yeah. All the people who didn't sleep.
But there's a couple things in progress. So we're aware of most of those, but I think you'll find that there's a lot of good information on here. Let me tell you a little bit about the format of what we're going to do each Monday, at least as of today, because things change. And based on your feedback, we will also tweak this going forward. But in segment 1, we will also always present something visionary, inspirational from people who've been knocked down and got back up. We'll be inviting very well-known entrepreneurs, as well as many of you, whether you're known or unknown, who have just as powerful a story to share. We will also invite 2 to 3 people to share how they've used their present circumstances to adapt, to pivot, whatever you want to call it, and make lemonade out of lemons in just the last few weeks. You'll get great ideas on how to push forward in your own business and adapt to the fact that somebody moved your cheese. Segment 3, we'll call this the bottleneck segment. We'll invite 2 or 3 people to bring the great opportunities or obstacles or challenges that you're facing right now to the show. We'll then take just 90 seconds to share the opportunity or obstacle. And then we'll ask all of you to use the chat feature on Zoom to ask them questions, so we're all clear about what it is that they're facing. And then we'll shift for a couple minutes, or even more if it's needed, to rain down on them great ideas from us. And we've just seen this happen in 3 to 5 clubs week after week after week. How it's the wisdom of the crowd and the wisdom of the people, other people who are showing up going, hey, I can help you. Or I've had a similar scenario, and here's an idea that may work. And it just leads to an explosion of great opportunities and solutions. We'll then move into the last couple of minutes of the show. We'll ask our guests to share what we call a BFO, a blinding flash of the obvious, some aha or takeaway from the day, from your experience on the show, and see if we can get a few of our listeners on the chat feature as well. And then we'll end with a quick reminder to apply what we've learned and continue to stay in business community. Find a buddy, do not isolate. Maybe once you get a taste of this, you'll want to invite other people around you, because I know I have hundreds of business owners in my book who I think you know, if you try to just do this, gut it out and be the rugged individualist, it's a wrong way to move right now. And we're inviting them to join the Rising Phoenix business community.
Yeah, we might have to write a book called Who Moved My Everything, Not Just My Cheese. Right
Yeah, and I think you can see we're not done here. You can see we don't actually speak Latin. So when we get the episodes done, we'll put each one of them, we'll archive them or put them out here so that you can go back and refer to them or share them with friends as well. So if there was a favorite episode where you heard some amazing stories from people, we'll have them.
Very good. Thank you.
So Chuck,
Yes, Sandy.
we want to hear a little bit about your life story and some of the obstacles that you overcame over the last 12 businesses.
Yeah, we couldn't get anybody famous to do this segment the first time, so I'm going to do it. Tried to get John Elway and Warren Buffett and a few other people, but 3 days notice, it's going to be me. But I've got a story of rising from the Phoenix, or a rising Phoenix story as well. I was the last of 4 children, ADHD, dyslexic, left-handed, right-brained. And if you've ever seen that movie Home Alone, that's my life. I got left at home way more times than that guy did. I walked miles across town at 7 years old because they left me behind, and everybody thought I was in the other car. And when I got to where everybody was, nobody noticed because they all thought I was already there. It was just that kind of stuff going on my whole young life. I graduated at the bottom of my class in high school. And they actually had me in the principal's office the day of graduation. It was like a Charlie Brown episode. I'm looking at all these adults' knees, and they're going, wah, 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 wah. And they're talking about me right in front of me as if I'm not there, and discussing whether they should let me graduate. And I think the consensus was, if we don't graduate him, we're going to have him for another year. So let's get him the hell out of here. And so I graduated from high school. I got a full scholarship to a music school, but they wouldn't let me come because my grades were so bad. So I had to slug along for an entire summer and hitchhike to school to 35 miles to college every morning and back every night to prove my grades for the summer. And got into music school, did that for a couple of years, and went into the Army because I was sure the Army was the only people in the world who would hire me. And in the Army, I started my first little business and found out maybe there's something there for me. And off I went. And 12 or 25 or 30 years later, I'd built 12 businesses in 8 industries on 4 continents. And I think that's a story of relentlessness. In fact, I'm writing a book called Relentless. And it's not my story. It's a story of a lot of people's lives. But, my story isn't that special in a lot of ways. There's 50 of you on the phone call right now have stories that are just as amazing and just as dramatic. And but we just want to encourage you that there's a lot of possibilities out there. For over a decade and 20 years, well, as a kid, my mom would say, Chuck, there's no such thing as opportunity, or no, I'm sorry. She would say, every day we are faced with opportunities, cleverly disguised as obstacles. And I learned that over the years that, that's what life is all about. And right now we've got this huge obstacle that's really an opportunity. We've got to figure out how to face that and get in front of it. So I would just encourage you to think about your own Rising Phoenix story and ask yourself one of 2 questions. There's for the last decade or so, we've been asking each other, it's 2 statements. One is a question, one is a statement. The first statement that defines everybody's lives. Whichever one of these 2 you take defines your life. The first one is, I can't do that. Well, Henry Ford said, whether you think you can, you think you can't. You're right. And so if you can't do that, you're done. And that's one statement we could make right now. I can't do this. Well, then no, you can't. The other sentence is a question. How do I do this? How do I do that? And you can see 2 lives just diverging, because one said, I can't do that. And the other one said, how do I do that? And because I was the last of 4 kids and was basically in survival mode, the first 17 or 18 years of my life, I had one of 2 choices. I could just lay down and quit, or I could be somebody who rose from the ashes. And I was actually known as the quitter. My friends and my parents, they called me the quitter, because if anything got hard, I just quit. So I took that first question, or that first statement, I can't do that, to heart, and did that for the first 15, 17 years of my life. And gradually over the next 10 years, got to where I could figured out how to say, how can I do that? And it changed my life. So I would encourage you to think about focusing on what you can do and how you can do it and get going during this time. And we're going to give you some amazing stories on that as well. Tom, you have some thoughts on this kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, I came across this story. It's actually 100 years old, and then we're going to come to today. But I just thought it was a giant problem down in the South 100 years ago in Enterprise, Alabama, and all the surrounding areas. A boll weevil came up from Mexico and invaded all the cotton crops. And cotton was the primary and almost only crop that was being grown in the South during that time. And they also believed that was the only crop that they could grow in that sandy and well-drained soil. One man who sold cotton seeds went to other states to investigate and find a solution, came back with peanut seeds, of all things. Now, again, just in the Enterprise, Alabama area, the yield went from 5,000 bales down to 1,500 in a very short period of time, and it was shrinking year to year. The weevils were just wiping out everything. People were leaving the area and going north trying to find jobs because there was such economic hardship. The guy came back with peanut seeds. He convinced one farmer to make a shift. The farmer took a risk, planted his entire crop in peanuts, and in 1 year made enough to wipe out all of his debt from the previous 3 years and have money left over. So huge response. And then everybody went, hey, we can do that. Or how did you do that? We want to do that. And the people planted peanuts, crop that would prove more profitable than cotton. They even made a monument to the boll weevil. Google it sometime. I mean, there's this big Greek statue holding up a bowl with a giant boll weevil on top, and there's a plaque that's saying, "We're thankful for what happened because
The peanut people are, right?
it forced us to think differently." So the boll weevil caused farmers to seek a better cash crop to replace the cotton, and then they went on to go, "Well, who said cotton was the only crop?" And they started asking bigger questions and started asking why. And now, there's a diversity of crops. So one story from 100 years ago that changed the South and changed the economic stature because of a plague from boll weevils I went through.
Chuck, in 2009 is when we met you and got involved. And of course, that was the Great Recession time. And I think it's kind of interesting for you to talk about what was the GDP during that time? What really happened during 2009?
Yeah. We asked a bunch of business owners this week, got together virtually in community and asked them what at the bottom of the Great Recession, the worst recession since the Great Depression, where was the U.S. gross domestic product? That's how they measure the economy. What was the bottom of the economy? What percentage of our economy was missing at the bottom in the last quarter of 2009? And people were saying 50%, 30%, 40%, 20%, 35%. At the very worst of the worst recession since 1930, we were at 4.3% below where we were at its height in 2007. You never got that from the news. We were 95.7% full. You never got that from the news. Yes, there were industries that were 30%, 40% down, and you heard nothing but about real estate and construction. That's all you heard.
That's really true.
But the rest of the economy was flying, and there were people. I know a guy who was building homes over $750,000 per home. He had 17 of them going in 2009. He was building 3 on speculation. So even there, there's stories about that we might get to on how you can push through this stuff. The Aikido principle, Tom Fanning's on the call, and he's the guy who clarified this for me, I think. Aikido is this martial art where you take the force or the opponent's energy coming at you, and you use it for your own benefit. You use it, either against them or just for you. And that's really the Rising Phoenix principle as well, is to take all this energy coming at us and figure out how do we use it for our benefit. Almost every, I've been told by our Irish friends, almost every wine plant or wine vine in France is actually planted on American stock. And it's because the Americans, when we brought grapes over there, we brought a disease that had never been in Europe, and it was wiping out everything in France. And the only solution was to take the American stock and plant their vines on top of it. So all of those plants, and it's just another example of using the energy coming at you for your benefit. So we want to figure out how to use this hour to do that.
That's awesome. Let's lift to today, and we really wanted to highlight every week people who are making that shift. They're presented with a big challenge, and but they're looking for opportunity. One such person is Hans Brewer. He's the proprietor of Big Fat Pastor Spirits in Loveland, Colorado. Hans, tell us a little bit about what's going on and what shift you're making.
And unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hans, unmute yourself if you would.
Bottom left-hand corner should be a button.
Can you hear me now?
Here we are.
Yep,
Thank you.
gotcha.
So I am a distiller here in Loveland, Colorado. We usually make bourbon. I own Big Fat Pastor Spirits. We have vodka, gin, and bourbon. I've been a pastor for 30 years. We've been doing the distillery for 3 years now. Obviously, they closed all the restaurants and bars in the state. So we are no longer able to serve the community with our tasty beverages. However, that created an opportunity for us. One of our goals, one of our values is to serve the community. And there was a big need recently for hand sanitizer.
Yes.
We have access to as much alcohol as we can produce. So we produce an alcohol that's 192 proof. So what we do is we make hand sanitizer now, and we give it to doctors, and we made our first delivery to a doctor yesterday, and then we've got calls from the post office, we've got calls from police departments and fire departments. They need access to hand sanitizer. So we've basically converted the production here at the distillery from tasty beverages to hand sanitizer in the meantime. And we're just serving the community right now with it.
Hans, how did that present itself, and how did you make that shift?
Well, it's interesting, as a pastor for 30 years, I'm always thinking of different ways to serve the community. Even as a distillery, we do that. We serve some of the local agencies that help kids. But this was an incredible opportunity because most people don't have access to the equipment and the stuff that we have here to make hand sanitizer. So it's just a natural step for us to think that way.
Robbie, I'm sorry, Robbie.
Hans.
Yeah, Hans, as you're talking, we're getting great responses. Just brilliant. Wow. Focus on how we serve. Redeployment. Love it. Great idea. Great shift. Awesome. Just brilliant. Great example of taking the energy coming at you and seeing how you can redeploy it.
Right.
Hans, I read about this yesterday and the day before in some national publications. So
Yeah.
I'm glad they're picking up and running with it. Some good news for a change rather than us just drowning in all the data. So well done. Thank you so much for sharing the story.
Hey, I got a question
Go
for
ahead.
Hans. Hey, Hans, are you looking at possibly making this available to the general public to purchase from you, or even to purchase and maybe donate to our local hospitals or fire departments? Or
No, it's interesting. We are not making it for sale. We're only giving it away to the local hospitals and police departments and the places that need it most. But even as we made the delivery yesterday to the doctor, they were giving us money to help pay it forward. So it's going to be like by donation only.
Yeah.
I love it. Boy,
That's cool.
talk about seizing the opportunity and the law of reciprocity.
Yep.
Well done. Good model for the rest of us. Thanks, Hans.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of something we say all the time to our business owners. You either live in a world of scarcity or you live in a world of abundance, and whichever one you choose affects every decision you make. And so congratulations for choosing abundance, Hans. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Sandy, you talked, I heard you talking about a restaurant that was doing something wild. And while we're doing that, we'd love to have, if one or two of you have stories like Hans, or you've heard of something like Hans's, this is what this hour is going to be all about. So we'd love for you to kind of raise your hand and unmute and just go after it. So Sandy, do you remember what you were telling me? I don't remember the story. It was amazing, but I don't remember the particulars.
I've actually seen a couple now, but Delinda and Peter Fatnow, who own Indulge Restaurant, they have 3 locations in Colorado: South Glen, Highlands Ranch, and Golden. And hopefully we'll get them on one of these calls. But obviously wine bar and restaurant, and love the 2 of them. They're very innovative, tremendous business owners. They also have an Airbnb, so I don't know how that's being affected right now. I want to be able to talk to them, but basically, they posted on Facebook their concern for their people and what was going on, and then very quickly we watched them pivot and start. They put a question out to everybody that just said, "Hey, if we provided meat packages or fruit and vegetable packages, or other kind of foods you could take home and cook, would you be interested?" And then immediately we saw packages and what the packages contain and what they cost. And then I saw a post the other day that just says, "Oh my gosh, thank you everybody. The response has been overwhelming, and Cisco partnered with them to make things available." So that was just such a great example of somebody in the midst of possible devastation very quickly adjusting and being able to make something out of this. And so I actually put a text into Delinda, waiting to hear from her to see how that's going. And I noticed one of our restaurants, we live in a little place east of Denver called Elizabeth, a town of 1,400, but watching some of the innovation, even in our 4 restaurants here, you know, packaging, family style meals and stuff like that. So I love those stories that are coming out of it.
That's awesome. And I didn't get a chance to get Dr. Weisiger pegged for this because, again, we thought of this Friday night, and here we are Monday morning with a website and a show. But Dr. Weisiger sat with us, our group, on Tuesday with about 10 people, 12, 15 people virtually. And he owns he owns and runs a general doctor's practice. And the guy he's at least as old as I am. He's not a spring chicken. And he was talking like he was a 23-year-old entrepreneur. The guy had 3 or 4 brilliant pivots and shifts. So we're going to get him on next week and talk about him as well. So I'd love to open this up for 1 or 2 more, or 3 or 4 more if they go fast. And these should be stories about what you've done in the last couple of weeks, not what you did 5 years ago. We got to tell those up front, and we'll want you to do that next week as maybe the beginning of this. But if you have a story that you did or someone you know about has done that will just give all of us opportunity to see how we use this energy coming at us and rise from the ashes and all that good stuff.
Yep.
We'll give it a little pause here, and it'll be this what we call the awkward pause. And as moderators, I'm very, very used to the awkward pause. And so we'll just be awkward for a second until somebody jumps in.
Well, and it would help to put your name in the chat box because we can't see all 65 or whatever faces on here. So if you have a story, I do have a story in the meantime while people are putting that in there.
Okay.
So a friend of ours, daughter, has created
She's a seamstress.
a seamstress, super introverted. We tried to get her on here and she was like, I'm too
She
introverted.
just couldn't make it.
Yeah. And so your friend let you know what's she doing now, Tom?
She had all this material, and so she designed a face mask that also has some filtration built into it and pipe cleaners, so it forms on their nose. And she is making now 30 of these an hour and supplying them to the hospital and doctors that are closest to them, because the supplies have been wiped out. And of course, we want the people who are serving the people in the hospital and caring for people to stay well. So she just basically stayed up all night because she set goals for herself. She's just going to keep cranking.
That's awesome.
Things.
We just had Brian. That's a great example. Another great example of moving with what you got to go with. Brian Sawyer just texted. We've converted our company to 100% telecommuting in just 1 week. Now, if there were 100 of you and 99 of you were already working from home, it's not much of a story. But I'm guessing it's bigger than that. So, Brian, unmute yourself and share what you've done. We're not hearing you, so you must.
Yeah, can you hear me?
There you go.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, everybody. I hope everyone's staying safe. Chuck, I met you after I got divorced. I went to one of your presentations. A friend of mine that lives in Colorado, who had his own business, recommended your book. And I went to see you in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since then, I've wanted to do the important things that you talk about, but the urgent stuff always gets in the way.
Doesn't it?
So we sell industrial machinery, and we repair, we sell and service industrial machinery. So we're allowed to stay open. But we went from issuing a set of guidelines to our employees last weekend that we sent out and made everyone acknowledge, checking your temperature before you come in, practicing safe social distancing, instructions to our outside salespeople, postpone a call if it's absolutely urgent and you have to meet in person, okay, but practice social distancing. So we went from all that to, you just can't meet anyone. And by the end of the week, by midweek, we had locked our place down, and all of our customers started to lock their places down. So outside salespeople, they're used to working from home, but inside salespeople, they're sitting at a desk, and we had an IT company that we work with was instrumental in helping us set. Basically, we have 14 employees. We're down to 2 guys in our shop and 1 person up front that we're going to rotate, just because I don't think it's right to have 2 guys in the shop and that's it. Incoming phone calls, we set up a voice over IP system. We just got that done this morning. I worked on that with the company from Friday through this morning. People don't even know where we're sitting. All of our IT company had bought 85 laptops last week, anticipating everyone was going to be needing to do what we were doing. So we bought 4 of them, and the inside people that normally sit here physically now can remote in and work their desktops from home. It's people that have never worked from home or shop manager. We installed Slack, so now we're messaging everyone. We just had a 2-hour Zoom meeting this morning so that everyone understands the new tools. And coincidentally, we had just hired a marketing guy a couple of weeks ago. And you can see by my background, we do a lot of oil and gas business, and that's going away over time. And who knows what's going to happen with that business with oil, and no one's going anywhere. So who needs gasoline or diesel or jet or anything? So we need to find chemical processing, food, industrial wastewater, sanitary products. These are industry, pulp and paper. These are industries that are they're going 100% full out, and they're going to need their equipment to be staying in operation. So we're fully able to support their needs as long as we're right in Philadelphia, like just north of Philadelphia. So we don't know when they're going to tell us you can no longer go to work. But when that happens, we'll be able to sustain the business.
That's great.
And we'll be
Bill, what
better
you're saying
than we were before.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you're talking, it reminds me of what I think it was who is the boxer who said everybody has a strategy until they get hit in the mouth. And
So Chuck, the important.
yeah, so you've learned this.
The important became the urgent.
Yeah, that's
Because
awesome.
we're sitting around and half of us, you don't have anything to do half the day other than work on some of this urgent stuff.
Okay, congratulations. Well,
Thanks.
I want to get a couple more of these in. Thank you. Bill Dittmar, I've met Bill. He lives in Virginia Beach, and Bill is a MLS soccer coach, or a soccer ref, rather. And to do that, you have to be in incredible shape. I've met Bill. Bill, come on and tell us what you've done to help you pivot with MLS soccer.
Hey, Chuck, great to hear from you. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
All right. So just to give you a little bit of the backstory for a minute so you understand. I did referee in the league for 20 years, and for the last 5, I've been now a coach for the referees. And Chuck knows my business. I have a magazine and a marketing company. And so I have a couple different areas we play in. And what happened is with Major League Soccer, as with the other sports, we're closed down for at least 8 weeks. And our guys are used to, the referees are, guys and girls are used to going to a training environment out in either Minnesota or Dallas every 2 weeks. And so obviously all that has had to shut down. So it's not directly my responsibility. I'm just one of the coaches that coaches the referees. But in the other part of my business, I train Navy SEALs and Special Forces transition in this thing called the Honor Foundation. I've been teaching classes in that for the last 2 years. So how's all this come together? Well, in the Honor Foundation, we have 3 regular campuses where we go and teach class, but we, for the past 2 years, have had a virtual campus that is actually a 3D avatar-based training. And like, we're all on Zoom right now, and Zoom is great for certain things, and it's a great technology, but it's still not the same as kind of being in the same room. And this 3D virtual actually is much closer to it. So long story short, as soon as this all started a week and a half ago, I'm in Virginia, so we're doing pretty well here, but we're probably a couple weeks behind the other places like New Jersey. And so I reached out to Major League Soccer referees, to our bosses, and immediately shared with them how we do it with the Navy SEALs, the training classes. It's a 3-hour class in a virtual environment. And so we've now, within the last week, got it to a point where we're very close to making those camps that typically cost Major League Soccer, say $30,000 to $40,000 every time they put on a camp, where we're going to be doing some of these virtually. So the lesson in it, which is the same lesson everyone's trying to share, is there's opportunity in everything. And I'm not making money. I'm kind of like the pastor in this particular thing. Is I went at this more because I knew about the technology, and so I connected the people that could use it. But I really have embraced, and I'll close with this. What I've learned is in these type of times, it's all about the network that you have built, and that you build your network during the good times. Because then when things get tough, you're able to pull upon that network, not necessarily just to make money or it's about helping people. And so I thought that this is just one example of how, just because I was involved in one thing and involved in another, there's an opportunity for me to connect them and make a difference. So hopefully that's the message we leave with that.
That's tremendous. I love it.
Thanks,
Great
Bill.
example of pivoting and moving forward. Tom Fanning, I'm going to yell at you again, or make trouble for you again. I think you're the one who gave us the definition of resilience. Can you bring that on real quick before I'm going to bring Robbie Harnoy on next? But I'd love for you to give us that, because it sounds like what Bill was just talking about.
Yeah, thanks, Judd. And good morning,
And
everybody.
speak up.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Now we can.
All right, good. Yeah, again, a long time kind of perennial 3 to 5 club member, and Chuck and I have known each other for a number of years, along with Tom and Sandy and others. And so our own iteration through the 3 to 5 world, much less Crankset, much less all of us that are on this call to begin with, it's again, where we give our focus. As Chuck had mentioned around, if you think you can, either way, you'll be right. And one of the things I shared in our club meeting last week was the fact, and it came by way of another a colleague and folks who may be familiar with the Abraham Hicks folks and some of that conversation, but basically is that the greatest and strongest virus on the planet is fear. And so if we choose to find ourselves in that place, in that space, and Chuck, by the way, thank you for the attribution last week on the email, but it really is true. I'm a contemporary of Chuck, so in my 60s, and I've had a lot of business experience in different ways. And at every turn, it's about how we choose to bring ourselves into the game, how we choose to bring ourselves into the future, recognizing that a lot of our work is related to past, present lessons, and yet we continue to want to bridge to a kind of a future present reality. And it certainly is, that's what's facing us all here on the planet right now. And so for me to do what I'm doing right now with all of you is a first for me. I've done a little bit of Zoom in my life, but certainly not at this scale. And so I'm eager to see exactly how this does support and serve all of us going forward, where there's no question that as I look at my screen, that there is community here across the planet. And so the resilience is really connecting into this kind of energy collaboratively, as well as our own, I guess, inner work, Chuck, in a way, where we're just saying, look, yeah, there's that little fear monger that comes up overhead, but where do I choose to give my attention, my focus, my energy on this thing, and just allow that to keep coming forward to your language, which is, the 2.1 scenario, which is to say, I know what I know today, and we'll see what we know tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it. Bounce forward, don't bounce back. Brilliant, just brilliant. And Tom is, I've watched Tom develop for the last 9 years. He's been working on a vision for his company, Boomza. And just a few weeks ago, they signed a lot of paperwork to get moving on the largest, really the largest commercial real estate project in the history of Fort Myers for not for seniors, but it's for people who don't want to own their place, but are still active and want to actually have a great life. And so it's going to be fun to see how all that thing pivots and moves through this as well. But congratulations on that. All right. So Robbie Harnoy and Greg, we're going to have you come on. You're going to talk a little bit about GSR architecture and how you shifted to some new things here. So give us some hope in the architecture world.
So GSR Architectural, we've had a lot of success with a new model we're using to help general contractors in the past several years come up with design and fabrication and installation, a turnkey thing for a lot of the features that go on a building that they've bought the steel out for, but they don't have a way of understanding how to build it, how to design it, and the expertise around that. So we've come up with the acumen to do that. And then we have partners that then implement. And so with this model, our vision is really to be the eyes on something that they are not ready to do themselves. So given that structure and our mission, and the idea that I was reading a lot of things like you all are reading a lot of things these days, that every business right now is a startup, and coming up with this notion of how can we flip what we're doing or pivot, what you would say, Chuck. And so I'm thinking about all our partners. We're getting emails, as I know everyone is, about what the landscape will look like and how they want to, do things on job sites different. We're not pulling projects apart yet, our existing ones. So it's not like the sky is falling, but we also want to be early adapters on what we can do going forward and starting now. So our thought is we will come up with some ingenuity around how we can provide solutions, again, architectural solutions, building solutions, to what the medical world, it's all about the medical world. And so on that front, how can we be of assistance? So offering our current partners in construction world, our general contractors, somewhat of our architects too, they're secondary to us, but how we can be a solution for them, say, pretend it's a pop-up clinic demand that comes next, which I've heard is going to come next. Providing structures around that, because our crews can build anything. We don't have to build the design features that we currently do. We can easily change into what is needed. So we're going to offer that. We're coming up with some email marketing to provide that probably this week.
Beautiful. Another great example.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks, Robbie. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And I'd take any suggestions of people in that construction world too, understanding that better. We're in Minneapolis, based in Minneapolis, so that's our primary market.
Robbie, I was just thinking, we were in a 3 to 5 club this week and had a lot of guests, specifically in one of the clubs, and one of the guys is in construction and was worried. And Tom and I have both been in real estate for 15 years, and we looked at this and said, wow, this is a time where there may be decisions for people that they're like, I'm not moving right now. And so that opens up always an opportunity for people to think about what they might do in the existing place they live, or even in the existing business that they're in. And so that might just be a vehicle to think about for work for people is this shift is going to create that opportunity. It already is. So
awesome. And Sandy, Gina mentioned earlier on, didn't read this yet in the chat. She said, does the seamstress need particular types of fabric or materials? So if you can answer that quick, great. If not, you can privately chat with Gina on that.
Tom already.
Yeah, we're looking into it. We don't have that information at hand, but we'll find out from the seamstress.
Yeah. So exciting stuff. Somebody on the call with us is Angel Tussey, and Angel works with lots and lots of small business owners across the country and helps them get some media exposure. And so I wondered if Angel might just even pop in for a minute and talk about that, because I think there's a lot of great stories out there that could be told and shared. We noticed in Colorado yesterday that a local agent had made lunches for everybody at the hospital and ended up on Channel 7, I think it was Channel 7 News. And so I just thought maybe, Angel, you'd want to say hi. And if there's a quick inspirational story about what you see business owners doing right now.
Well, Tom and Sandy, Chuck Blakeman, thanks so much for pulling this together. I have seen an amazing outreach of business owners really leverage the power of technology to stay connected and to continue to share their message. And for you guys that are looking for more publicity for every one of your stories, you've got to know the journalists are looking. They are looking for filler. They're looking for human interest stories. Anything that the small business community is doing to pivot that indulge story. There's people that are coming together and donating. We've got actually this great Facebook group that has over 600 comments of people that are sharing with each other. You need something, I got something, and all this porch pickup stuff. Every single one of those is an opportunity to create some PR and publicity, not necessarily because we want to, I don't know, capitalize on what's going on, but it's super important as our business to stay top of mind and to create that publicity. And if you've never used PR and publicity to get your business out there, there's so much opportunity right now. You can send a press release to the local media. There's a website or there's a link on every radio station and TV station's website saying, send us your stories. And the reason is they are looking, they want to hear your stories. So yes, we share them on social media, and yes, we share them within our own client base and with our own community. But don't keep these stories a secret. What you are doing is going to inspire others to lift up and to embrace, and that rising tide lifts all ships. And right now, one of the phrases that I've been saying is, it's not so much about what we're doing right now, but it's who we are becoming and who we are as leaders in the marketplace that is really going to shine the light in this darkness. And every single one of us has an opportunity to shine the light. So if you have questions about where should I send my stories, PR.com, you can send out free press releases on PR.com. EasyMediaList.com, you can find a list of all your local media outlets, or you can just reach out to me. I've got a fabulous database and I can kind of guide you in a direction of where that story might need to go. Does that help?
Angel, throw some of those links in the chat box too. Angel does a lot of free stuff, is on, has Facebook groups and stuff where she educates people. So throw those links in there and thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'd like to also say we're going to put all these stories out there as well and feed them to the news as well. So yeah, if you get on this show or you get on Angel's show, just feed this stuff to people. They need these stories of hope. This is what this is all about, for us to be focusing on the one thing we can do. We talk about the 1,000 to 1 principle. There's, in today's climate, you could figure out 997 reasons why your business won't survive, and I'll give you 3 more so we can get to an even 1,000. There may be only 1 or 2 ways that your business could survive. Which one should we focus on? If we focus on finding all the ways this won't work, we'll find them. I can't do that. If we focus on the 1 or 2 ways it might work, let's chase those rabbits. How do I do that? And I think we're going to be in a different place. So thanks, Angel. It's just awesome to have you remind us that people need to have these stories out there, and reporters and newscasters like you are looking for this.
Well, Chuck, that's so true. Just within our own sphere, with building 3 to 5 clubs, we just had a huge influx of visitors because we went online last week. All of a sudden, any challenge of having to drive across town or drive down the street to join it, that was all taken away because nobody's driving. And so that, well, great, we're going to offer real help to people, and we've doubled some of the size of our group. So, in the midst of, nobody wants to come out right now, by making a simple shift and going to online community, we've given access to way more people.
Awesome.
Chuck, you want to make a shift? I'm sure there's some people who have some challenges facing them.
Yes, I'd like to see if we can get one person, and then we're going to talk about financials. Don't leave, because we're going to give you we're going to do like 3 minutes or 2 minutes of blitz on how to preserve cash and get cash, because that's probably of interest to people. But before we do that, we'd love to have one person who hasn't solved it yet, who hasn't gotten that thing figured out yet, who isn't on the other side of this thing. We call these things bottlenecks. Sometimes they're great opportunities, sometimes they're obstacles. That's why we call it a bottleneck. It's a neutral word. It doesn't have to be something that's dragging you down, but in this case, it might be. So we'd love to have one of you come out and do that. What we're going to do here is we call it the 1, 2, 3, but we might extend it a little bit. 1 minute to tell us what your bottleneck is, 2 minutes for us to ask questions via chat, and we'll just repeat those. And then 3 minutes to rain down on you with answers or solutions via chat, and we'll just read those out as well. And we'll probably give it a little more time than that, but that's what we do in our live groups, 1, 2, 3. And I'm telling you, people's lives have been changed by this. We had the first time we did this, like 15 years ago, 12 years ago, that one of the guys got up front and said, my bottleneck is I'm going out of business on Friday. And then we asked questions, and he said, well, I'm going out of business because I got 4 people and I don't have enough money to make payroll on Friday. So I'm going out of business. Well, he did not understand cash flow. And believe me, we're all in this boat. Very few people know the business side of business. So some people shared with him the business side of business. They helped him get a loan for 2 weeks. He had plenty of receivables coming in. And now the guy works 3 days a week in a business with 25 plus people in it. And he goes to Europe every summer. And he was going out of business. So this is the kind of power you can get from a 1, 2, 3 like this. All right, enough of me. So who's got one? Just jump in. Don't even, we don't have time for you to chat it. So we're going to just trust that we get the right person to jump in and be transparent. This is a place to say 3 magic words. I don't know, or I am scared, or you can just fill in a whole bunch of the others. This is the place. Who's got one?
Hi, my name is William Winship.
Okay. Right.
And I have been in the consulting industry for the last 18 years working with small to mid-sized businesses. And recently, like about maybe a year ago, I came into a crisis where I couldn't go do that anymore because I couldn't see any real viable path to get the small business really energized and growing because of the challenges then. So I quit. And so I started a new company called That Guy, which would represent that guy. And I just recently wrote a book called Hope Shift. The reason why I'm sharing that is because I share your challenge with, I'm a dyslexic person and I tend to write and I tend to gap. So I've had a hard time getting this book polished. I've got the bones and I've got the meat, but the essence of the book is we're in a season right now where people need hope. So it's called Hope Shift 2020. And so we've got to shift in different areas. As an example, we talk about leadership, but we have to be leaders. We have to be a leader now. We have to step up now. We can't look to other leaders or leadership curriculum or any of that. It's time for us to step up. And that's the whole basis of the book of 18 years of a frustrated consultant, trying to help the world. And now the world needs help. And I wrote that just before this crisis, and it was published on Amazon, but it's needing to really be polished and buffed. So that's my frustrations.
Okay, so what's the one thing you would like us to solve? Give it to us in one sentence.
One sentence would be to create clarity so that this really rings well with cultures and communities.
Okay, so we've got 2 minutes to rain on him with questions, and then we'll ask him those questions. Just go ahead and chat them out. And if we're not getting them that way, you can go ahead and get it live. We just don't want people stepping on each other a lot. There's a lot of people on the call. So
if you're not aware of how this works, down at the bottom of the page, there's a chat button. Open your chat box.
Yeah, just move your cursor around on the Zoom link and you'll see a chat box just to the right of the green one. Hit chat and you're going to see all kinds of amazing stuff going on in that box, resources and links. And Angel just posted something on how to do a press release, just all kinds of stuff happening there. So who's got some questions for William?
Real quick, I'll just say, who's your target? Who's your target audience?
Target would be the small business community, families as well, creating healthy, functional families and businesses.
Bill Dittmar asks, is the book already finished?
It's published, but it's going to have to be republished. It needs to be refined.
Okay. And then Jim Martini says, so he's asking, do you need an editor or someone like that to help polish the book to make it marketable?
Probably someone that can actually take the gaps and fill the gaps, yes.
Okay. Other questions?
What's your goal with the book, William? I mean, I know you said to help, but specifically, what's the goal of the book?
Well, we're gonna, through this venue, we're gonna develop other businesses. I'm gonna do kind of like a franchise. I'm calling it a funchise. So really it is a marketing tool to help others to be inspired to start businesses even as we speak, because they're losing their jobs and such. I mean, predictably, I couldn't have known that, but that really has been the inspiration of the book is, you know, after 18 years of helping other businesses, I want to actually help build one more business and leave a legacy in that.
Okay,
William,
let's
just
go ahead. One more question.
In addition to the inspiration, is there a functional aspect to your book? I mean, does it tell people this is how you need to think about starting a new business?
There is, what I observed is that most businesses have a mission, vision, and core values, but they're not necessarily real. So in that, there's mission, vision, core values as a model. So a person that owns a business can take the book and probably develop their own business through it.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
And one other question, how will people find the book? Is it going to be a Amazon or social media or combinations? Do you have any plan for that yet?
Well, I wrote it, it's a small little book. I think we pay like $2 or $3 for it. And for me, it's going to be really a giveaway. I'll probably use the church platform because we have an audience there, and utilize it as a way to philanthropically help other people is really the goal for me.
Okay. Well, let's, we just got a few minutes. We're running over here a little on this. So let's take a minute or two. I think this is going to be, it's not a complex answer. There might be a lot of them, but I know Gina said Nina Durfee is a development editor who wrote a book called Say It Simply. So we're doing solutions right now. And she wrote this book called Say It Simply. She specializes in clarifying. Her website from Gina is ninadurfee.com. Look at it in the chat box. Bill Dittmer says, I suggest to be careful with leaving 2020, with having 2020 if it's part of the title. It will tie your hands in the future. I would agree. So think of doing it farther out than that. One comment I have is there's a woman here in Denver called The Book Shepherd. And she's been shepherding books for 20 plus years for authors, does a very good job. And you could check with research The Book Shepherd and that'll come up.
Okay, very good.
Who else? Anybody else got one? Okay, well,
thank
one more?
No,
I just said thank you very much for the contribution. Very helpful.
All right, and
I just get your book in the hands of 10, 12 people who will be honest with you and ask them if they'll read it and give you some feedback. And just say, does this work for you in this context? And I think you're going to get some, some honest feedback and some guidance as well.
And David Saxenmeyer just put again, look in the chat box. There's going to be a lot of valuable stuff in here. Brene Brown put out a great podcast yesterday. It's going to be helpful for people in this, doing the same thing. It's a perfect fit with what we're talking about today here. There's a link in this chat box there. So go to the link in the chat box. He did that at 9:51 a.m. So look there. All right. Just a couple minutes on cash stuff. And then we're going to have to we want to make sure we honor everybody's time. We're going to be out at 9. Preserve cash. If you have a credit line, I wrote an article on this in 2009 for Inc. magazine. I wrote it again on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you have a credit line, especially with a larger bank, you should probably consider pulling that credit line across to savings and just letting it sit there. We're not there yet, but it's possible. What they did in 2009 was every large bank in America took their credit lines away from just about every business in America with less than $1 million in revenue. And I believe strongly that one of the reasons it was the longest drawn out recession we ever had was because they created so many healthy businesses by doing that. They did not look at the health of the business. You woke up in the morning and your credit line had vanished. So pull your money across. If you don't have a credit line, go get one. Banks are still giving them. If there are other ways to get money, the SBA is doing emergency loans. There's a direct loan with the federal government. We'll post all this stuff on the website. There are, what are some of the others, Sandy and Tom?
Well,
And
Facebook just announced they're giving $100 million away. Now, when
In
you
grants.
go in grants, not even.
Yes, thanks to Andy Scantlin. He gave us that. So we'll post that. They haven't moved on that yet, but they're doing $100 million in grants. So there's credit lines, SBA, emergency funds, and cash is going to be king.
Yep,
So
and
get as much of it as you can.
check your own state, because Colorado, I can post that link on our website or send it to you guys to post, has a whole help fund right now. So check the state you live in, because there may be resources at a state level as well. And some are grants and some are low interest loans.
Yeah, and we'll post this on the web, all this stuff on the website as well. But we want you guys to stay connected and keep going. One other thing that I don't think we're not there yet for most of this stuff. But we just need to be prepared. Well, I'll give it next time. We don't have time. We don't need it right now. So let's go with that stuff. If you have questions on any of this stuff, you can hit us at grow@3to5club.com. Or Chuck at cranksitgroup.com. We've got all of those, but grow@3to5club.com is probably a great part to start. We'd love to do, we're going to try and do, we're going to do blinding flashes of the obvious at the end of each time, but we don't have time for them today.
You can
So
throw it in the
Sandy,
chat box, though. You could throw your BFOs in the chat box.
yeah, I'd love to have your blinding flight. It's like, what's one thing I already knew? It's like this opened my eyes to something that's a possibility for me. So we'd love to have you do that. Here's another comment well, we just have to read the comments for William in the box. We just running out of time. Sandy, send us out with some encouragement, my friend.
Let's not be rugged individualists right now. Let's really press into community. It's really a time where I think we're all just emotionally even feeling like we need even more connection. And I want to end the quote from a website around the Rising Phoenix, which says, "Suffering and joy teach us, if we allow them, how to make the leap of empathy, which transports us into the soul and heart of another person. In those transparent moments, we know other people's joys and sorrows, and we care about their concerns as if they are our own." And that's what we want to do. We want to care about one another in such a way we really can help us keep going, press through, innovate, become better than ever, thrive, not survive. So, but we can't do it if we don't do it together.
And as our friend Tom Fanning says, the worst virus you can catch is fear. Spread the viruses of courage and innovation and all those other things. Tom, you got a thought on the way out?
Thank you for all who stepped up today, whether we had you planned or not. Thanks, Hans, for your inspiring story. Well done. And we're very appreciative of each of you. And we're going to be back here again next Monday.
Yeah. Remember, go to the website, nominate a friend, tell a story, tell us you want to do a bottleneck, because we'll be here every Monday to be encouraging and facilitate this.
Very cool. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Let's go out with hope and courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck and team.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Gina.